Hello and welcome to another Two Network match report with me, Adam. It's finished at St James's Park. It's finished Newcastle United 1, Chelsea 2. It's been a pretty controversial game. The day started with a bit of curious news in that Jamal Lascelles and Shelvey, according to the club, had knocks and were completely out of the matchday squad. There's a few other reports flying around about Lascelles and possible fallings out with Rafa Benitez, etc. But we'll see what kind of comes out with the wash in that. The controversy surrounded around the decision by Rafa Benitez to play a 5-man defence against Chelsea. So you could see that, very similar to Man City last season, where actually Rafa Benitez got completely lambasted by pundits, Gary Neville included, that wonder manager Gary Neville, who did awesome things at Valencia, as you remember. His tactics were obviously to park the bus and to frustrate Chelsea and reduce them creating the amount of chances that they might against a team that might play a bit more open and expansive. Rafa Benitez, as we all know, is an absolutely excellent defensive coach. Chelsea's team is full of, tens of £1 million players. Obviously, the new goalkeeper from Bilbao, he was bought for 71 million, and I'm pretty sure that you could probably purchase most of our matchday squad with 71 million, given the difference. So without Lascelles in, Fabian Schär and Federico Fernandez came straight in at the deep end for their full Newcastle United debuts in a 3-man defence with Kieran Clark, Dummett and Yedlin making up the full-backs. Now Yedlin was back after we thought he might have been out for a much longer after going off injured late into the Spurs game a couple of weeks back. Shelvey, who, as you might have seen in previous videos, I think has been probably one of our best performing player over the first 2 games in total. So I thought he would be an absolutely big miss. I think we did miss him to an extent, but I thought that Diarmi and Key had really good games in midfield. Key was recovering a lot of balls. He looked composed and assured on the ball. Diarmi was brilliant. He was absolutely frustrating what was a £100 million midfield that Chelsea had assembled, and he was breaking up play a lot and frustrating them. So, in the first half, Chelsea obviously dominated, and it was very apparent straight away that they were going to have a lot of the ball. As it turned out, they ended up having 81% possession versus our 19%, which kind of shows the disparity in the quality of the two sides. And we had a couple of corners in the first half. We had a really good Jacob Murphy shot in the first half as well, which tested the Chelsea goalkeeper. But apart from that, we really struggled. I mean, in fact, throughout the whole game, we struggled to retain any kind of possession and make things happen in the final third. But ultimately, that was just the game that was playing out. As the game grew on, it was always going to be about survival in that game and how long we were going to be able to keep them at bay. Chelsea didn't, for all of Newcastle's lack of creation, I guess, in the first half, not in the second half as well. In the first half, Chelsea only really tested the goalkeeper from a Pedro shot from outside the box. So we went in at half time, and it felt like we were in. As much as we didn't have the ball, we were still kind of controlling the game and preventing them and frustrating them from what they wanted to do. Hazard saw a lot of the ball. Hazard got fouled a lot. Hazard, for some reason, for all his skill and talent, is one of these players who almost has to walk away from every challenge hobbling, which I never fully understand. Like it's a contact sport. Even just get up and crack on and start running. But he does this thing where he's sort of hobbling off, and he's obviously like he's struggling to walk, and then as soon as there's an opportunity where he can receive the ball, he's fine. And I never understand that, because it's so transparent. I don't know why players do that. It doesn't. Is it because if they do something good, then it makes them even better because they've done it despite an injury, or if they do something bad, is it a crutch, like a safety net, to say, oh well, I would have played better, I would have performed better, but I got that injury because I kept getting clattered. I never understand. I don't know what it is, but for me it seems needless. If he's actually got hurt, fair enough, but don't feign injury. Don't put the hobble on and then just sprint like sort of 30 seconds later. It's weird and very pointless, and everyone can see through it. It's very odd. Anyway, he was getting fouled a lot, but actually getting quite frustrated, and we were very well organised, very well drilled. If you consider that we had Shea starting for the first time, we had Key starting for the first time, we had Fernandez starting for the first time, we had Rondon starting for the first time, Yedlin was back in. We were playing a completely new system for a lot of the players in that squad. We made a lot of changes from Cardiff. Obviously Kennedy couldn't play given his the terms of his loan condition, his loan move, and I thought at half time, yeah, very, very good, drilled, and as I expected. I never expected to get turned over today. I probably didn't expect to win. I kind of hoped for a score draw. I hoped for a 1-1, I think. And like the Spurs game, it was won on margins. It was won and lost on very fine margins. You look at the Spurs game. We conceded the first goal, and the ball was 9mm over the line. You know, couldn't really call that with a naked eye. Back in the day, that might not have stood. Obviously, it was a very legitimate goal, and it should have stood, and fair play to them. But it's just when the margins of error are so tight, and we just seem to have got a lot of bad luck. You know, the fact that we missed a penalty against Cardiff. You know, you can't really legislate for that. And in this game, you know, Rudiger rattled the bar in the second half from far out. I mean, Dubravka didn't have much to do, but he was absolutely beaten by that. But obviously he hit the bar, and nothing came of it. But by that point, Giroud had come on for Morata, who had been pretty invisible, to be honest. Jorginho saw a lot of the ball. As I mentioned, Hazard was floating around absolutely everywhere, trying to affect play. Alonso looked dangerous, as he always does. You know, he sort of still felt like he was playing that wing-back role, despite being a regular left back in a back four. You know, he's got that athleticism and stamina that allows him to do that. He's such a dangerous player, and you know, our right back position has been targeted previously, so it's no surprise that we saw a lot of attacks coming down that side. But when I say attacks, you know, every time Chelsea tried to get the ball into the box, they were just met with a wall of black and white. And you know, the amount of clearances that we were getting in on our three centre backs, I thought absolutely superb today. Given that two of them, I mean, one of them was frozen out the side last year because just completely out of favour, and two of them have just stepped in from for their first games. You know, baptism of fire, and I just thought they were absolutely superb. I mean, I want to kind of, before we get into the nitty gritty of the goals, I just want to kind of point out just how important these performances were. So, like, you look at Kieran Clark, for example. Only Olivier Giroud won more attacking aerial duels than him today, so he was a real danger from set pieces, which is where we looked the most likely to score. Obviously, before we did score. Tackles, he won the 5th most on the pitch. Interceptions, joint most on the pitch. Clearances, most on the pitch. Headed clearances, most on the pitch. That's Kieran Clark. It's absolutely fantastic stats there, and really showing his worth. You know, for somebody who, you know, I thought might have been sold this summer and was surplus to requirements. But he's really kind of proven himself there, and you know, we'll get on to the penalty incident in a second, but I just want to prefix that with the performance of Fabian Schär, because you know, similarly, he was equally as impressive. You know, he headed clearances, he was the third best on the pitch. Clearances, second best on the pitch. Blocks, you know, most blocks on the pitch by an absolute mile. Interceptions, joint most on the pitch. You know, that really, really solid. I mean, this is his debut in the Premier League. You know, it's his first start in the Premier League, and he's coming up with numbers like that, and it just kind of shows how relentless Chelsea were, but how frustrated they were, because they were met with three very, very competent centre backs doing a very excellent job, who have been drilled by a world class manager in Rafa Benitez. It's as simple as that. The penalty was the turning point. I mean, at the point it was about 75 minutes, and I, like most people on the ground, had been wondering how long we were going to be able to keep this up, because by this point we'd already, I mean, Fernandes and Cher had already been shown a yellow card, and we were just giving away a few more fouls than we had been in the first half. We were just, I wouldn't say we're losing our head, but the pressure was building. Hazard that fed Alonso into the box, and he was through, and Cher kind of came in with a tackle, and my initial instinct was that the ball was won, that it wasn't a penalty, that there was a clear foot on that ball. Obviously, those watching on the TV had the benefit of replays and commentary and insight from multiple angles, but my instinct in the ground was no penalty. And having seen the highlights since recording this video, I was absolutely right. It was 100% not a penalty, and that changed the game. And I think what, you know, a couple of notes about the referees. But so the referee's position, I think, was very poor. There was a sea of people in front of him. The incident was facing away from him. You can't give. And not only that, is the linesman, his view would have been blocked by many, many people as well. You can only give a penalty if you're 100% that it was a foul, and I don't think he knew. He obviously didn't, because it wasn't a foul, having seen the replay. But to have that level of error in a Premier League game, I think is unforgivable. We should expect better from incidents like that. So, and in the ground, the other thing that I noticed as well was the fact that Cher wasn't given a second yellow. If that was the tackle from behind, with Alonso through on goal, as the referees apparently seen it, to give the penalty, that's an easy second yellow. Why is he staying on the pitch? He should have been sent off. If the referee was that convinced and he was committed to his decision, Cher walks and we're down to 10 men. But he didn't. Why? Because he wasn't fully convinced. He thought there might have been enough there for a penalty, but he didn't, because he wasn't 100% sure. That's not good enough. Credit to Dubravka. Very, very nearly saved Hazard's penalty, which was very excellently taken, I must say. And you're thinking, well, that's at least a release of tension and pressure. You know, we've been trying to hold out, and there it is. There's that inevitable goal that's been kind of gifted to them. Well, kind of. It was definitely gifted to them. You know, some other people might think that we were probably going to hold on from that point and continue to frustrate us. I think that something was going to give at some point, and that penalty was something giving, you know. But, you know, to mention sort of centre-backs, you know, I mentioned Cher and Kieran Clark. I thought Federico Fernandes was also very, very impressive today, winning balls. And what was most impressive and quite surprising by, you know, I haven't really watched him in that much detail previously. I was aware of him, but his long distribution is very, very impressive. And a couple of times he found Yedlin, and I thought what a brilliant outlet for us to have. You know, with Shelby off the pitch particularly. Obviously Key's got that kind of passing range, Richie to an extent, but to have somebody being able to, you know, pick the ball up from defence, you know, in the 19% that we had possession, so the very few opportunities that we actually had the ball in possession, I thought he was really good, and for the goal, he sprayed a lovely diagonal ball up to the relentless Yedlin, the boundless energy of Yedlin, who clashed with substitute Giroud, and having seen the replay, it was definitely an elbow, and we've definitely got away with one. That's probably a red card, but the linesman was right in front of it, didn't wave his flag to everyone's surprise. Yedlin puts a beautiful ball in, that's got to be said, and Hosselu, who's come on from a very isolated Rondon, who put a shift in and showed glimpses of how a Newcastle team spearheaded by the Venezuelan could look like. Really, really impressed, and it just seems that Rondon was isolated, maybe not fully match fit. Hosselu's come on, and after his goal scoring exploits against Spurs a couple of weeks ago, he's done it again. He's directed a header absolutely brilliantly into the top corner. Keeper's absolutely nowhere. Stadium erupts, and it's absolutely fantastic. Absolutely bouncing, and you think, bloody hell, we're going to get something out of this. But there was at 0-0 and then at 1-1, I was always thinking, this will be really good if we draw. And I felt because Chelsea had that much dominance on the game, that we would have been either way kind of lucky to draw it, even despite thinking that the penalty might have been a bit of injustice, which it turned out to be, you know. And again, as Chelsea pushed forward for that last 10 minutes, it's almost like Hosselu scored. So I think Hosselu scored about the 83rd, 84th minute, and it meant that there was about 10 minutes to play with Chelsea just going all out for it, and you knew it was going to be very, very tough. You know, at this point, Muto and Perez had come on, and you know, I guess at 1-0 down, Rafa was trying to go for it, trying to stretch them, and trying to give us something in the final third that would basically be missing for most of the game. But that was the tactic. The tactic was to frustrate Chelsea, one of the best teams in the league, as Spurs were, and go toe to toe with them and try and nick a draw and maybe a win on the break. That was the game plan, and it almost worked. But Hazard kept getting fouled. Hazard kept wriggling around and drawing fouls, and we got free kicks. And by this point, Willian was on the pitch, and Willian's one of the best. His delivery of a dead ball is absolutely superb. I'm a huge fan of Willian, and you know, they kept peppering us a bit in the last few minutes, and as it turned out, Alonso, who had obviously been integral in the penalty winning, was fired a shot across the box towards the corner, and actually if Yedlin had left it, Ross Barkley, I believe, another substitution, was waiting right behind, but instead he tried to clear with his left foot. It came off the side and it just dribbled into the side netting. Own goal, and it's 2-1 to Chelsea in the 87th minute, and it's just, again, like the Cardiff game, it's heartbreaking how it happened, how the events unfolded, how we were so close to getting something from the match. So, like, you know, look at those three games: the penalty miss, the Tottenham scoring by 9mm, a penalty that shouldn't have been against Chelsea, and an own goal. How do you legislate for that kind of thing? You know, in each of the games, tactically, I think, you know, we were kind of, certainly the two home games, I think tactics were absolutely spot on with the tools that Rafa Benitez has at his disposal. Tactically, we were sound, and anybody who thought that we could have played better or should have played better today against Chelsea, who will be finishing Champions League positions this season, you want to get your head checked. We almost got a point. To think that we could have gone out there against, you know, like a £150 million, £180 million defence alone, which is essentially double what our whole squad's worth. The fact that we bring on Hosselu and Perez to try and change a game, whereas they bring on Willian, Barkley, Giroud, you know, combined, you're looking at 90 million about there. That's crazy, you know, that's absolutely crazy money, and maybe 70 million. That's just the difference between, there's such a disparity in it's just really sad that under a Mike Ashley Newcastle United, you've got a world-class manager who's having to scrap around with, scrap around for points and park the bus and put on a defensive, Premier League defensive performance 101 against a team who he feels he should be competing against. He should be a lot more competitive against the likes of Spurs and Chelsea. And do you know what? For those two games, we went toe to toe with two of the best teams in the country right now. So I can't be annoyed. I'm absolutely gutted that we lost it in that manner. It should have been a point. It should have been 3 points against Cardiff with that missed penalty, and Spurs with a bit of better finishing, which should have been a draw. The positives to take out of it are, we played like that against Chelsea without two of our best players in Lascelles and Shelvey. We played like that against Spurs, playing the likes of Hosselu and Clark, who, couldn't really get into the team last year. So I think we're creating chances from open play. We look dangerous from set pieces. Key's delivery is really, really excellent as well, and the fact that we've now got a lot of central defenders who look very, very strong in the air. That's going to give us another secret weapon. It's going to give us another outlet for scoring. I think Rondon showed flashes of brilliance. I think Muto is only going to get better. I'd like to see him start the Carling Cup match against Forest. And Diomé again, just putting a shift in. If we play like we have in those two home games against Spurs and Chelsea, if we play like that every game at home, keep up that level of effort and potential and creating chances, we're going to be fine. That own goal against Yedlin, which you just can't legislate for, that point that we've lost today, and it's only a point, that's not going to be the difference between us getting relegated and staying in the division. I don't think it'll come to that. We're better than that. We seem to be in a much better position after 3 games now than we were after 3 games last season, and we've got 2 points fewer. But there's so many positives to draw on that I can't get angry about it. Tactics do not legislate for the bad luck that we had. And yes, Chelsea were dominant, but they had 15 shots in total and only managed 3 on target. We had 6 on shots and we had 2 on target. So we only had 19% possession. But such was the quality of our defensive display that they only managed 1 more shot on target than we did, and that was a fucking penalty from, a penalty that shouldn't have been. It was a free shot at goal. So that was the difference ultimately. And as much as I'm disappointed, I'm impressed by what I'm seeing, and we're only going to get better. And fantastic debuts all round for the team. I'm looking forward. Obviously, we've got City next, Man City away. That's unlikely to reap any points whatsoever. I expect us to play 5 at the back again. Will Lascelles be in the side again? I hope so, but I'm pleased with what we saw today. Very, very encouraging. Hopefully Shelvey's just a knock and he'll be back as well, but we'll see. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Adam of the Toon Network. Please subscribe on YouTube if you can. And we are on SoundCloud and iTunes as well. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, so please follow and like those pages as well. I've been Adam. Another defeat, but lots to be positive about. Thanks very much. Bye.